Kính thưa quý vị và các bạn, Diễn đàn Thời nay kỳ 12, một thước phim có giá trị lịch sử. Đây không phải là chuyện giả tưởng hay là việc đang xảy ra hay là sắp xảy ra, cho nên quý vị và các bạn không lo sợ tuyên truyền xuyên tạc hay là hướng dẫn sai lầm. Đây là chuyện ghi lại ngay cái thời điểm ở trong quá khứ, mấy năm về trước, chứ không phải chuyện kể. Đến nay sai đúng đã được sự thật chứng minh. Quý vị và các bạn không sợ bị tuyên truyền nữa. Mấy năm qua, truyền thông khuyết tật đã truyền bệnh thù ghét khắp nơi đối với một người và truyền những mơ ước bệnh hoạn. Hôm nay xin chúc mừng những ai đã có phúc nhận ra mình đã bị lừa và tự quay đầu. Quay đầu là ngạn, ngạn ở đây không phải ai khác hơn là cho chính mình, thuộc về mình nhưng đã bị đánh mất, để sớm lấy lại lương tri trong sáng của chính mình. Dĩ nhiên có người cho rằng là mình đúng và tiếp tục đi. Xin thưa rằng, ở đây không ai có nghĩa vụ ngăn cản và cũng không ai ngăn cản quý vị làm gì. Và diễn đàn không có thời gian để trích dịch mà chỉ có thể trình bày lại nguyên bản. Điều này kể ra có khó khăn, bất lợi cho quý vị và các bạn không biết hay là ít biết tiếng Anh. Nhưng xét cho cùng lại có cái lợi khác, vì đây là dịp cho cả nhà cùng xem. Người biết tiếng Anh sẽ giải thích cho những người không biết. Chính vì vậy mà nó tạo ra cơ hội xây dựng lại mối tương liên gia đình chặt chẽ hơn, hoặc là sửa chữa lại nếu nó đã rạn nứt vì truyền thông bất lương đã xâm phạm mấy năm qua. Xâm phạm vào lương tri, làm lu mờ lương tri của một số không ít người. Đáng tiếc nhất là những quý vị và các bạn vốn tử tế, thật thà. Nội dung của video này cho thấy các ông thần truyền thông ngày nào cũng tụng một tin giả rằng là Trump thông đồng với Nga, như là tội nhân phản quốc. Họ nói y như họ nắm bằng chứng trong tay. Với những lời độc địa, bôi phét nhân cách không tiếc và những ước mơ ác, muốn ông Trump bị tội cho đến không còn cảm thấy ác ý từ tâm của mình. Nhưng sự thật bị đẩy trong lu quá lâu, bị ngộp thở. Nó không chịu nổi nữa cho nên nó tung ra và la lên. Thưa quý ông bà ạ, sự thật là tôi đây, hãy nhìn xem, tôi đây này. Không phải như những gì quý vị và các bạn nghe đâu. Tất cả đều là do phía dân chủ của mình làm hết đây. Có hồ sơ nhưng mà là hồ sơ giả đấy à. Và cuộc điều tra 675 ngày do cả khối nhân viên điều tra giỏi nhất nước, luật sư giỏi nhất nước Hoa Kỳ và tốn mấy chục triệu đô la đã kết thúc rồi. Ông Trump không biết gì về thông đồng cả. Vậy quý vị bà con xa gần hay là các bạn nào may mắn gặp sự thật này thì có nên tự bảo vệ mình mà từ bỏ truyền thông không lương thiện hay không? Thiện tai hoặc là lạy Chúa. Ở đây con không dám có ý kiến. Dĩ nhiên quý vị và các bạn xa gần tùy hỷ. Nên buông hay là nên tiếp tục đi theo. Một lần nữa ở đây xin không có ý kiến. Và đây là một trong những video có tính lịch sử. Xin mời quý vị cùng các bạn.
Maybe that don't usually tune in here. Those who maybe now realize that you have been lied to by other networks and the news media on a spectacular level for years and years. You know, I look at so-called competition in cable news. Let's start with Rachel Maddow's audience. They have been sold one conspiracy theory night after night after night, lie night after night after night. 22 months, she has profited from these lies to her audience on a spectacular level. Frankly, she and her so-called colleagues, so-called mainstream media, so-called journalists, they should be embarrassed tonight. They should feel humiliated tonight. They should be apologizing tonight to the American people, as well as so many others in the media. It will take me months, but we will follow every lead and we will remind you what has been done here. Now, the truth has been laid bare for all to see. No collusion, no obstruction, no truth to the lies that have been peddled daily. We on this program have been right all along because unlike the mainstream media, we have been telling the truth with evidence to back it up. Many of you since yesterday have been writing me and you want me to spike the football tonight. I am not in any type of celebratory mood here tonight in any way. This is a time every American that now knows truth, you should be angry at what has happened here. All of America, I am pissed off, and so should the rest of the country be over what has happened. Just because, you know, this is only the first chapter. This must be a day of reckoning for the media, for the deep state, for people who abuse power, and they did it so blatantly in this country. If we do not get this right, if we do not hold these people accountable, I promise you, with all the love I can muster for this country and our future, for our kids and grandkids, we will lose the greatest country God has ever given man. We will lose it. We now have 675 days, $25+ million, 2,800 subpoenas, 500 witnesses, 500 search warrants, doors kicked down, pre-dawn raids, felony convictions for process crimes, screws turned to accelerate or hope for or get people to lie to hurt the president, other lives ruined, mounting legal bills for so many Americans, many who are now facing bankruptcy, like Lieutenant General Flynn, a 33-year combat veteran. That's how we repay him. And after a prior 9-month FBI investigation that found zero evidence of Trump-Russia collusion, after a bipartisan Senate investigation found zero evidence of collusion, the press never told you, after another investigation in the House found zero evidence of collusion, lo and behold, for the fourth time we learned over the weekend, Robert Mueller has found zero evidence of Trump-Russia collusion, according to the Attorney General Bob Barr's summary findings of the Mueller report. Quote, the special counsel's investigation did not find that the Trump campaign or anyone associated with it conspired or coordinated with Russia in its efforts to influence the 2016 U.S. presidential election. And let me be clear, a direct quote from the Mueller report. The investigation did not establish that members of the Trump campaign conspired, coordinated with the Russian government in its election interference activities. And that's not all. President Trump has also been cleared of the issue of obstruction of justice. You just heard from Jay Sekulow. Mueller did not draw a conclusion, quote, one way or another, as to whether the examined conduct constituted obstruction. The special counsel did not conclude that the president committed a crime. It didn't exonerate him, which the media is clinging on to. But read a little further. After reviewing the matter, the Attorney General, in consultation with the Deputy Attorney General who started this whole thing, Rod Rosenstein, concluded, quote, the key phrase that the media misses, the evidence developed during the special counsel's investigation is not sufficient to establish that the president committed an obstruction of justice offense. And this is important. According to the Attorney General, quote, our determination was made without regard to and is not based on the constitutional considerations that surround the indictment and criminal prosecution of a sitting president. And he concluded, quote, generally speaking, to obtain and sustain an obstruction conviction, the government would need to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that a person acting with corrupt intent engaged in obstructive conduct with a sufficient nexus to a pending or contemplated proceeding. Anyone in the media who refuses to admit this truth is continuing the lying that they have been involved in for 2 years. In other words, you can't obstruct a crime you didn't commit. There was no collusion. There cannot be any obstruction. No charges will be filed. The Mueller media witch hunt is finally over. The big question for this country tonight, this shouldn't be about conservative, liberal, Democrat, Republican. Where do we as a country go from here? How do we prevent this unprecedented attack on a duly elected president and an effort to then overturn the will of the American people from ever happening again? People with the highest levels of power abusing that power to exonerate one candidate that we know should have been indicted, to favor that candidate, to rig a presidential election, and then undo the results that they didn't like. After all, we, the American people, we were lied to over and over and over again. My promise to this country from this night forward is we will hold every liar, every propagandist, every conspiracy theorist accountable. This will likely take us months and maybe longer to unravel the truth. We've got all the tape. We've got all the comments. It will take time, but I make you this pledge tonight. Every deep state actor that abused the power that we, the people, give them will be held accountable. We will hold every super patriot, Comey, who thought they knew better than the American people accountable. We will hold every fake news media liar, conspiracy theorist accountable. We will hold every liar, the cowardly shift to begin with, in Congress, accountable. We will name names. We will demand new investigations. We will get this right. We will demand that we get this right. And we will show you who can never be trusted again. And tonight we start with this corrupt media mob in the Democratic Party. We now know they work in unison. They are one entity. And for the past 2 years, there have been two parallel narratives in this country. One, of course, was the truth, which we have been proving night after night and reporting on night after night. And tomorrow, all the people that deserve the credit will be here with me about the biggest abuse of power, corruption scandal, perhaps in history. And then there was the media's pack of lies about a grand scheme where Donald Trump and his team worked closely with Russia to steal the election. It literally breathless reporting, hysteria, pushed week after week, every second, every hour of every day. Look at some headlines. Vox were commonplace across nearly every media outlet. There's actually lots of evidence of Trump-Russia collusion. Wrong. The Atlantic, the collusion with Russia is in plain sight. Wrong. Huffington Post ran this lie on their front page. Manafort indictment reveals Trump-Russia collusion. A lie. We're talking about thousands upon thousands of reports in the opinion and so-called hard news pages alike. That means the Washington Post, the New York Times. Believe it or not, they actually won Pulitzer Prizes for their lying coverage of the Russia collusion hoax. That is a disgusting disgrace and a dishonor to every person that deserved a real Pulitzer Prize. This horrible conspiratorial coverage was amplified every single day on fake news, CNN, conspiracy TV, MSNBC. This is but just a tiny sampling. Take a look.
I think this meeting and the revelations about it are a game changer in the investigation because they present the first evidence of actual collusion.
What Mr. Trump did yesterday was to betray the women and men of the FBI, the CIA, NSA, and others, and to betray the American public. And that's why I use the term that this is nothing short of treasonous.
This is direct collusion. Collusion's been established. It's out in the open, right? We know this all took place.
And the whole notion of there being no collusion, this is the biggest diversion of the Trump crowd. There was collusion.
So this picture that the president is so desperate to avoid, this picture of collusion, begins to fill in.
You know, that's interesting here is it's both, on one hand, very damning because it's collusion. You see it there, and it's collusion.
It would seem that collusion is obvious. A criminal conspiracy is unknown.
There's collusion in plain sight. There were the back and forth between various individuals who were affiliated with the Trump campaign and Russian individuals. That collusion, I think, is quite obvious and apparent.
A political hurricane is out there at sea for him. We'll call it Hurricane Vladimir, if you will, the whole Russian thing.
This is evidence of willingness to commit collusion.
This is all a lie. And at the height of this hysteria, especially fake news CNN and conspiracy TV MSNBC, of course they were featuring every second of every day former Stormy Daniels attorney Michael Avenatti more than 108 times in 2 months because he hated Donald Trump. And Avenatti was speculating wildly and spreading these baseless rumors, and they ate it up about Trump and Russia on a daily, nightly basis. Well, today, Avenatti was indicted in 2 federal separate cases surrounding fraud and extortion. Yet for weeks, Avenatti was their star guest on cable TV, on show after show after show, and the media was desperate for the false narrative and lie to be advanced. You know, Britt Hume, 50 years in journalism, called this Russia collusion coverage the worst journalistic debacle of his lifetime. Over 50 years in journalism. I thought I had a lot at 30. You know, even far-left former Rolling Stones writer Matt Taibbi, I think is his name, wrote, quote, "Nobody wants to hear this, but news that Special Prosecutor Mueller is headed home without issuing new charges is a death blow for the reputation of the American news media." Jeff Zucker, head of CNN, are you going to apologize for your network's constant stream of lies and hysteria? Phil Griffin, NBC, are you going to apologize for the conspiracy theories you allowed to be spread every second of every day on NBC? What about Jeff Bezos, Marty Barron? Are you going to come clean over the front page deception every day in the Washington Post? Will you at least stop referring to far-left collusion-obsessed hack Jennifer Rubin and others as conservatives? They're not. Is the New York Times executive editor, Dean Backwet, is he going to give back the paper's Pulitzer Prize for collusion reporting, given they were caught now reporting a hoax? They all lied to we, the people, day after day for 2+ years. In reality, we know there will never be a mea culpa from any of these major fake news outlets. They'll just move on to the next group of lies. They'll never apologize. They'll never retract. Their lies, their anonymous sourcing, their endless speculation. They are hopeless. Journalism, I told you in 2007, it's dead, it's buried, and it's not something that I said lightly. They have earned their horrible reputations. Never vetted Obama. They rushed to judgment going back to Richard Jewell. Look what they did to a 16-year-old kid and other 16-year-olds from Covington, Nicholas Sandman and the Covington kids. Look at what they did in the Smollett case. Look what they did to the Cambridge police, Darren Wilson, Michael Brown and Ferguson, Freddie Gray. They rushed to judgment in Baltimore. The fake rape allegations at UVA, the fake rape allegations against the Duke lacrosse team. The rule of law be damned, due process be damned, equal justice be damned under the law, equal application of our laws be damned, the Constitution of the United States, to all of them be damned. The media mob, the Democratic Party mob, they have caused great harm and division in this country. They laughed at the idea that Donald Trump could win. They begged him to run. By the way, on all those cases we mentioned, we didn't rush to judgment. Justice Kavanaugh, another case. We allowed due process. We allowed the presumption of innocence. They never allowed it in any of those cases, and they've never been held accountable, but it's never been this big. Now that he's president, they have never taken the time to ever cover Donald Trump's accomplishments, which have been record-breaking. They hate him. They hate all of we, the people that dared to vote for him. They thought they knew better. We, the irredeemable deplorables, you know, that we believe in God, our Bibles, our religion. We're the smelly Walmart shoppers. This hatred is now, this rage has caused the mainstream media to be wrong over and over and over and over and over again. NPR embarrassed after it lied about Don Jr.'s Senate testimony. Oh, we pay for their coverage. McClatchy blatantly wrong about Michael Cohen's trip to Prague. It never happened. The Guardian reporting a fake conspiracy about Mueller and Julian Assange. 3 CNN employees forced to resign after reporting an untrue Russia story related about Anthony Scaramucci, our friend. Fake news story after fake news story, lie after lie, propaganda after propaganda. If it had to do with Russia, President Trump, well, the story was hastily reported, and facts were nothing more than an afterthought. Look at more of the video evidence.
A sort of dossier of alleged dirt that the Russians allegedly say they allegedly have on Donald Trump. Alleged dirt that they allegedly used to allegedly cultivate him as basically a Russian asset.
You get the person's phone records. Here they see these calls to the block number, and now there seems to be good evidence that that was probably President Trump.
Michael Cohen claims that then-candidate Donald Trump knew in advance about the June 2016 meeting in Trump Tower. Crucially, these sources tell us that Cohen is willing to make that assertion to the special counsel, Robert Mueller.
We begin with a new report that Paul Manafort, the president's former campaign chairman, paid secret visits, multiple ones, to Julian Assange at the Ecuadorian embassy in London. This is according to The Guardian.
President Trump directed his attorney to lie to Congress.
Why no due process? Why no presumption of innocence? Why no due diligence, even on a 16-year-old kid? Blatant false reporting, rushing to judgment again and again. The answer is simple. This corrupt, partisan media mob is an integral part of the new radical extreme Democratic Socialist Party. They clearly work together. They develop, they push the same narrative using the same words, whether it is true or not. Outlets like fake news CNN, conspiracy TV, NBC, they have become nothing more than the propaganda arm of the Democratic Party. That's why when they try to kill us here at Fox and you support us, you are allowing the only voice of reason on the air half the time. That's why Democrats, the media, sounded exactly alike. Remember their comments about collusion? Gee, they sound like one another. It's like they're one mind, one heart, one body, one soul. Take a look.
You know, my Republican colleagues, the president himself, the White House has been saying there's no evidence of collusion, none at all. We need people to say that there's no evidence of collusion, no collusion whatsoever. Well, it turns out that there was collusion.
In our investigation, we saw strong evidence of collusion. The Republicans now are choosing to bury it.
Over the course of the last year, we have seen, I think, a mountain of evidence of collusion between the campaign and the Russians.
The evidence is pretty clear that there was collusion between the Trump campaign and the Russians. And
you think there's evidence pretty clear?
The evidence is there.
It seems quite clear. The president keeps saying no collusion, but there obviously was collusion. And the question is how high that collusion went and whether the president was part of a criminal conspiracy. There was clearly a criminal conspiracy to defraud the American people of an honest election.
This looks like an explosive indictment because the facts they set forth look like collusion.
We saw cold, hard evidence of the Trump campaign, indeed the Trump family, eagerly intending to collude possibly with Russia.
All lies. In the end, we now know the truth. Trump, Russia, collusion, the conspiracy theory was nothing more than a coping mechanism by people that couldn't handle losing, desperately hoping the 2016 election results were not what they were. Some evil force was behind the scenes, behind the curtain, pulling the strings. Russia, Russia, Russia. Never before as a country have we witnessed such sore loserism ever like this. So many lies, so much hysteria and breathless reporting. And Democratic House Intel Committee Chairman Schiff, I call him the cowardly Schiff, lied repeatedly when he said there's significant evidence of collusion. He is not to be trusted, should be taken off as the chairman of the House Intel Committee. He's a national disgrace, as is Congresswoman Waters lying to you when she vowed to impeach Trump over collusion. You can never trust people that lie like this. Or Congressman Eric Swalwell, who said he's seen plenty of evidence of collusion. He is a liar. He's never to be trusted. Or Senator Hirono exclaiming that we are headed towards a constitutional crisis. More total BS. And the list goes on. And the hysteria and the left was widespread. In fact, if not for talk radio, thank God for Rush, Mark, my colleagues here, many of them at the Fox News channel, like Tucker, Laura, Lou Dobbs on our sister station, Fox and Friends, a few other brave, logical, independent thinkers standing alone. There would have been no one out there advocating for the truth, discovering the biggest abuse of power scandal in our history. Nobody. We now have to concern ourselves as a country with a two-tiered system of justice featuring high-ranking, deep state, powerful officials. We empower them that tried to first rig an election in favor of Hillary Clinton by exonerating her from what should have been obvious obstruction and a violation of the Espionage Act. Then they used their power to try and influence the 2016 election with Russian lies that Hillary paid for, of all ironies. That's why our Hannity watch on the deep state is more important than ever. I am tonight wearing an FBI flag pin given to me by a rank-and-file FBI individual. Can't name him, he'll get in trouble. But like so many people I know in the FBI, thanking me for distinguishing between the 99% of brave, dedicated agents of the premier law enforcement agency of the world that do a tremendous job, that are embarrassed by what their leadership has done. And they serve our country every day. Don't put them in the same alignment, if you will, with the Comeys and McCabe, Strzok, and Pages of the world. And this is now time that we get the justice that we deserve. This is now time for those that abuse the power that you gave them. Their day of reckoning must now come, or else this will happen again. My sources are telling me it's all about to come cascading down. This all started when they rigged the investigation into Hillary's emails scandal. There was clear, compelling, incontrovertible evidence that, in fact, she mishandled top secret classified information on a private server that we believe 6 foreign intelligence agencies broke into. There was clear evidence. By the way, no attorney could get me or any of you out of, subpoenaed emails that you may destroy, 33,000 of them. And then you acid wash your hard drive with bleach pit, and you bang up your phones and your devices with hammers and remove the SIM cards. Remember Strzok and Page and their texts? Remember about Trump supporters? They said we're smelly Walmart people, and saying that Hillary should win 100 million to 0. The lead investigator into the Clinton case, Strzok, who did the interview with Flynn and Clinton. In the Clinton case, imagine allowing 2 of her friends in the room while she's being interrogated in an investigation, or, as Loretta Lynch said, a matter. He was writing Hillary's exoneration with Comey's blessing in May of 2016. They had never done an investigation. The exoneration before the investigation. By the way, interviewed her July 2nd. Comey exonerated her July 5th. But not before Cheryl Mills was granted immunity, not before the infamous tarmac meeting between Bill Clinton and then Attorney General Lynch, and, of course, the testimony last week that Loretta Lynch herself was up to her eyeballs in every decision that was made, and even Lisa Page admitted, well, they're all Democrats. We knew the fix was in. That horribly flawed investigation into the Hillary Clinton now must be reopened if we are to ever have justice in this country. Once Clinton lost the election, the next phase of the deep state corruption, that kicked in. The insurance policy. Hillary's bought and paid for Russian lies. Imagine Russian lies put together by a foreign spy and then used on an American citizen to get entry into the entire Trump campaign in the lead up to a presidential election. They denied Carter Page due process. They denied Carter Page's constitutional rights. They repeatedly committed fraud against FISA court judges. They did it by omission, by not disclosing that Hillary bought and paid for the Russian lies. And, of course, they used what is unverified, uncorroborated information, because, remember, Christopher Steele doesn't stand by it to this day. Remember, Bruce Orr warned everybody. This was in October 2016. That dossier was tainted. Hillary paid for it. Christopher Steele hated Trump. And Christopher Steele testified, I'm only 50%, it's raw intelligence, as to whether any of the dossier was true. Most of it now was debunked. That rendered that dossier unverifiable. If they say they tried to verify it, they're lying. And that didn't stop the dossier from them being used, as Nunes and the Grassley-Graham memo said, as the bulk of evidence to get the FISA warrants, 4 of them. So tonight, it's time for transparency. Tonight, we begin a process that will take us a long time of accountability. It is now time to declassify all of those FISA applications. You talk about transparency, let the American people see the extent to which those FISA warrants were based on Hillary's bought and paid for Russian lies. And then fully expose every single one of these deep state actors who abused the power that you, the American people, gave them. James Comey, let's start with him. Let's start with Sally Yates. They need to be investigated. McCabe needs to be investigated. All who signed off on the FISA warrants need to be fully investigated. Susan Rice, Samantha Powers, John Brennan, Clapper, Lynch. And also, if Lynch is running this whole fix, what did Obama know and when did he know it? They all must be now put under oath, investigated, because they weaponized the powerful tools of intelligence and resources, and they literally broke the law. They surveilled against the law. They unmasked Americans against the law. They leaked raw intelligence against the law. And they tried to favor an election in one side and not the other, and then bludgeon and undo a presidential election. Clapper and Brennan, let's hold them accountable for leaking and lying. By the way, Comey, he believed in the dossier in October of 2016, but told Trump in January of 17, it's salacious, it's not verified. What about the private memos he purposefully leaked, government documents to a special counsel to begin the investigation? Think about the harm that all of this has done. Imagine, what president could withstand this, denying a free, fair, open election, and the American people their right to pick their president, the president and his supporters? An attempted, frankly, coup of a sitting president, appointing a special counsel filled with partisan Democrats, people that went to Hillary's victory party and even represented as attorneys Hillary Clinton. This has caused enormous amounts of collateral damage to many people that cannot afford the lawyers they had to hire. The president, his wife, his kids, his family, his advisors, heroes like Michael Flynn, people like Carter Page, George Papadopoulos, and so many others. And after Attorney General Barr released the summary yesterday of the Mueller report, well, there's FBI Director Comey tweeting, "So many questions," which Senator Lindsey Graham replied, "Couldn't agree with you more. See you soon." I warned Director Comey a long time ago before his book, "You Have the Right to Remain Silent. I suggest you use it." He didn't take my advice.
Và video thời nay kỳ 12, một thước phim có giá trị lịch sử, xin được tạm dừng. Đây là channel dự phòng của Diễn đàn Độc lập. Rất mong quý vị và các bạn subscribe và bấm like cho đủ số yêu cầu để được vào thành viên của YouTube nhằm phục vụ cho quý vị và các bạn. Kính chúc tất cả được vui khỏe và bình an. Xin tạm biệt. Bye bye.